I would love for you to tell people how to advance. Like if you have a nursing friend or even healthcare worker, whoever, to encourage them to advance in whatever area that they feel called to, what would you tell them?
I'd say stick your neck out there and try it. Go for it. It's hard
Yes.
to do because so in my life, I decided a long time ago, fear was never going to be a driver of my life.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I am extremely honored and excited to have a peer here, and her name is Jessica. And Jessica, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. So, Jessica, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and who you are, and whatever else you want to tell us about you in particular.
Okay, perfect. Well, I want to share a little bit about my story in regards to my profession, because this is When the Moment Chooses You. So a lot of it is in the profession, right? Doing different things and being inspired by different internal voice and different aspects that occur in our experiences in our professions. So my story starts when I was a little girl. I have a father who was a microbiologist that worked in the hospital. So I come from a big family, first of all. And so in order to create time with each one of us, I would go on daddy-daughter dates to the hospital with him. And that's where I was really inspired, and the first little sparks of my interest in healthcare started. He would show me things under the slides in the laboratory, and take me over to see the nursery. And back then you could look through the windows and you could see the babies being taken care of by the nurses, and it just was so awe-inspiring to me. I thought, well, I want to do that. And so I remember telling him when I was little, I wanted to be a baby nurse, like take care of the babies in the NICU or the nursery. And fast forward many, many years down the road, I did end up going to school and becoming a nurse. And so I went to school. I got my first nursing job in cardiac services, recovering open heart surgery patients and working with congestive heart failure patients. And I had two loves in school. One was cardiac services. The other is something that you're going to hold dear, is perinatal services. So,
Yes.
yeah, so definitely those are my two great loves as far as healthcare goes, as far as specialties. And I had transitioned to a position closer to home, and that was within perinatal services. So I was really excited to train and learn more, and move from cardiac services to perinatal services. And that's where my story kind of begins as far as when the moment chooses you.
Well, that is awesome. You have done wonderful things. And yes, we're sisters with the perinatal thing. So let me stop here and tell me about like Jessica. Who is Jessica beyond that?
Yeah. So I am from Utah. I grew up in a very conservative family. I grew up in a large family. So like my personal background is I grew up in a family of 7 kids. I am the 6th of 7. I have like these really amazing, great parents who taught me like really strong morals, ethics. It played a large role into definitely my work ethic and the things that inspire me and connect me to meaningful practice. I decided to move to California with my husband. I actually got married when I was 20. That's very normal for Utah. I have 3 boys. We're very active. We do snow skiing, snowboarding, wakeboarding, all of those active things. But transitioning to California, I was exposed to a lot of things that I hadn't been exposed to before. I grew up in a very sheltered community in a predominantly same religion, same ethnic background area. And when I transitioned to my first job was in Sacramento, and I remember feeling almost like cultural cultural shock a little bit, just because I'd never been exposed to so many languages, so many ethnic backgrounds, but I was also really intrigued by that. So it wasn't scary. It was just intriguing because it was something I'd never experienced. And then, I've done a lot of work since then and met a lot of amazing people. And here I am today. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, I want to kind of go into a little bit. The reason why I started this podcast, Jessica, was because I feel like there's moments that choose us, that call us into them so that we can impact change. We can disrupt systems. We can do something in particular that we were really called to do. So I kind of want to unpack that for you. Like, what is it for you? Like, what is your passion in nursing, if it's nursing, that really you hold dear to your heart? What is it that called you to it?
So, like I had said before, when I was young, I was inspired by the nurses I watched through the window. And then I also was exposed to the healthcare world through my father quite often. When I was older, naturally, I have this very natural instinct to build relationships with people. I love to connect with individuals. The humanistic approach to nursing is what inspires my heart. It's what I connect to. I did do frontline nursing for a very long time. I went into nursing when I was 18. I actually was a home health and hospice CNA while I was going to school. And that was my first exposure to working within nursing. And just connecting with those different people. And I remember really having this one patient that was really difficult. But, I remember being drawn to taking care of this particular person like I would want to be taken care of. And she was not easy. She was really hard. She was, a lot of people wouldn't work with this patient. And I remember going to the home of this patient and she had passed away and they didn't tell me. She was living with her family, but later on, the family actually acknowledged me in the obituary, which was really such a meaningful moment for me because I realized how much of an impact that connection and just really taking care of someone with that kind connection of how we want to be treated. The basic needs that we have, meeting those needs are really, really important when we're caring for someone. And so that part of nursing was what drew me even more to nursing. That was the first experience really that was so powerful for me.
Yeah, that is beautiful, and one that they'll never forget you, and you'll never forget that moment. And that reminds me of what we both are involved in, and that's caring science. So how did you start your journey as a Caritas coach?
Okay, this is I'm so thankful for it. For first of all, I have to just share that first. So much gratitude. So I actually was a frontline nurse in labor and delivery for a really long time. Loved the work. I loved doing that. It was a good balance to when, having children. I could work my schedule around what my kids were doing. It didn't seem overly exertional. It was good. But at about my 10-year mark of working as a frontline nurse within labor and delivery, I started getting this instinct, right? This internal voice that said, you need to be doing more. This isn't enough for you. Not feeling fully satiated, feeling like I had something else to do. So that's when I had really looked at all the different avenues of furthering my education and going into different aspects, maybe like a master's in nurse practitioner or nurse anesthetist, or changing it all together, going to just really exploring options from there. But what drew me eventually was leadership. So I transitioned to leadership, and I had this really great mentor. I'm going to call her a mentor. She was the director, but she also has inspired a lot of my work within my current practice. And she offered, she just came to me and she said, I really like how you follow through. You've shown that you follow through on many things. Would you be interested in this Caritas coach program? And of course, I'm a lifelong learner, so I love education. I love anything that's going to give me tools to be a better leader, a better mom, a better person in this world, right? So she offered the Caritas coach program, and I was a little hesitant because I was doing a master's program at the same time in leadership. Literally at the same time, they would be starting and going at the same time. And one was a year long and the other was 2 years. But I decided it was worthwhile to invest really in that year of getting the tools that I needed to be effective in my role. So the Caritas coach program, that's how I started. I'm not sure. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about how that program was for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I initially went into the Caritas coach program, I knew it was going to be good. I started reading some of the books. I had no idea that it wouldn't just give me tools. It would literally transform everything about the way I thought. I had no idea the impact that it was going to have. And part of that, during that course, there was 2 questions that were asked. And, you're a Caritas coach, so you probably remember maybe even these questions. But one was, tell us about a time, because you do a lot of writing in the course, when you felt a sense of belonging. And then there was another question that said, tell us about a time where you didn't feel a sense of belonging. And for me, the sense of belonging always came back to memories of being safe with my family. That really whole feeling that you have when you're full, with your family, you feel perfectly in a great state of mind and safe, and that loving dynamic that happens within families. And then the second was the sense of not belonging was always related to my religion, which is so interesting because I had dedicated so much of my life and time to this religion. But what it did do is encourage me to be authentic, to explore that feeling that I was having, and to address any biases that I had. I hadn't done the work for that internal work of addressing my own bias, my own feelings, and really just validating how I felt and being honest with that aspect of my life and my upbringing. And it really transformed a lot of my life at that point. And, I actually am not a part of that religion really anymore, but thankful for it. It did give me a lot of values and things that I needed, but also this transformation that happened within Caritas Coach allowed me to really be a better leader, understand bias, understand the history of so many different things. I did a lot of reading, a lot of work within that dynamic. And a lot of the organization that I work for is really, really active in promoting inclusion, addressing bias, and it's such powerful work, and it's something I'm super passionate about. So I'm so thankful, hindsight, looking back, that was offered to me. And also the foundation for practice and meaningful practice and healthy environments.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually during that time, and when we first started it in 2010, I had hit this burnout point, and I was searching for something different. I knew something else was calling me into it. And so when they came up with this Caritas coach program, and I was like, this sounds like me, it sounds like a way that I practice, or the way of being. And it was a game changer for me. And I think it just really changed the whole trajectory of my career and my life, and the different things that drew my heart to it. And even I really believe it was a foundation of where I am right now and what I'm pursuing to, or actually journeying to do right now. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And so with that being said, that the last 3 years, it's beyond 3 years, but nursing in particular have had major challenges over the last 3 years. I'm just wondering, do you have any insight on that? What are you doing to encourage nurses about the profession. I had did a series, Jessica, on For the Love of the Profession, nursing, a profession in crisis. And so I'm just curious, since I have you here, to see what your thoughts are about that.
So, like yourself, I've done a lot of work actually within this particular subject, thankfully. And it started with Caritas Coach, understanding healing environments, what it takes to be effective. The first Caritas Coach thing that you learn is self-care. You can't give a drink to someone else if your cup is empty. That's the first principle. And so often we exert ourselves to the point where we do not have the ability to give anymore. We've literally emptied our cup. So I started into leadership in 2019. So, before the pandemic, my transition was from my peers' support to the leadership role, which was actually really challenging. A lot of judgments from my peers. You basically take yourself and allow people to take a magnifying glass to every aspect of you, and you get all this, like feedback inadvertently. Like, people don't say it to your face, but you hear a lot of things of why you're not going to be good enough and why you're not going to be successful and why would they let her do this, or so that was challenging because I had built these meaningful relationships with people. So it was just kind of hard to hear, but that's part of it. That's part of the process.
Yeah.
And I remember not transitioning fully into my leadership team yet. I think part of that was my just learning and, guardedness to fully embracing. I was in the middle there still for a minute. But part of my journey was to feel that loneliness of leadership. So I often in my mind would say leadership is such a lonely path at times. I feel alone in these initiatives that I'm so passionate about. So that was 2019, went through the Caritas Coach program. The pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit nationwide, but especially within healthcare, fear was ever present. It was, it was like a weighted blanket on your chest. It was there. You could feel it. And it affected a lot of our everyday work. And I remember feeling like this is the time to really act and make an impact for those that I'm working with. And, I'm in this small position of leadership. I can do something with this. And I had previously done a positivity movement for one of the physicians I had worked with had wanted to do this positivity movement within that setting, labor and delivery. And she actually was diagnosed with cancer. So we did it while she was out and then included her in with videos and shared it with the staff. And we had initiatives every week that we focused on. And it was such a powerful experience for me to be able to do that program. So I decided at this point it was the year of the nurse. That was the other thing. It was the year of the nurse that we needed to really reconnect with our why in our story, why we're there, why we chose nursing. We interviewed, I used my, my team and we did it together. We took, templates and we interviewed 365 nurses all the way from the top of the organization throughout down to the front line, and asked questions about why they chose the career they chose, and then intertwined it with the history of nursing. And I did that project because I wanted to connect people with the meaning of why we were there, and not only just individually within labor and delivery, but connect us as a profession. As a whole, not to work within silos, not to separate ourselves from the other different clinical specialties, but to really to bind us as one. We're in this work together, and our vision should be unanimous towards the greater whole of all our patients. So
Right.
that was the initiative that I did. It was very inspiring for myself and then all those who were involved. And then during like actual COVID, we would go from different units and we'd do acts of kindness to inspire. And then I would create videos and then share them with leadership so that they could share them with their staff. Because I felt like at that time, it was really, really important as a tool to connect with our meaning, right? We
Yes.
needed to connect with that meaning so that that fear would abate and the meaning would be more pronounced than the fear. And we could really be still instrumental in the work that we were doing.
That's beautiful. I love the thought of that. So it was pretty successful then?
I felt like, for me, it felt really powerful and really successful. I've had, since then, I'm not in the same service line, but since then I've had different individuals within that service line reach out and ask how we did that, and they want to reintroduce it. And it was small. It seems big, and it was. I wrote it into a book and then printed the book and gave it out as a gift. And then the other aspect to that is I created this like Facebook page that's called Humans of Healthcare and shared stories, because I found so much inspiration knowing, like looking into the history of it, like individuals within healthcare, looking at what their barriers were and seeing how they overcame. And this was from physicians to nurses. There's so many stories that inspired me to like be strong, especially when I was, felt small. I felt small at times. And I remember questioning my own worth. Like, am I in this? Like, should I even be doing this? And I had to really just like go internal and understand I'm here for a reason. I'm doing the right for the right reason. I am passionate about this, and to really like know that I'm here for a reason, and to stay with who I was as a leader and to hold strong to that, and actually, shield myself from that negativity and just do the work.
Yep. Yeah, that's beautiful. You said quite a few things. I thought it was really interesting when you start talking about your leadership journey once you came up into leadership, because I experienced the same thing. It took me a year. I had joined because they saw leadership, and they're like, my first director, she was amazing, and she really mentored me to become an A&M. And so with that, my passion was such at the bedside that it was a real tough transition. And you talked about that feeling of loneliness and that feeling of isolation. And that's exactly how I felt. I think for the first year, I really didn't join the team until my husband, he likes to read to me, right? So he's reading this chapter, and it was titled, "Have You Joined the Team?" And I like broke out into tears while he was reading it, because I recognized that, oh my God, like I literally have not joined this team. I've been here existing for a year. And then I talked to my director about it because I was thinking about going back to the bedside and all of that. And so glad that she encouraged me to stick in there and stay, because that transition point caused me to know that I was called to lead, that people need what I have on the inside of me to be that leader that can advocate for them. So that was really beautiful that we had those same type of moments. You said a mouthful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, especially about your journey with the positivity movement. I love that. Anything positive, I love. So you talked about barriers though, Jessica. Have you had any barriers or obstacles that kind of get in your way? I'm sure you have, but share a couple of them with us that you think would be helpful.
Well, so that was labor and delivery, right? So that's a specialty. And then I had the opportunity to move because I was on night shift, and I had an opportunity to go to a day shift. And it was important for me to, balance this work with my family life. And I transitioned to an area that was, mid-pandemic and limited resources, and the wait was intense. the transition was intense. And I remember feeling a lot of like, how do I describe it in a way that's, I remember feeling a lot of judgment from different areas and I was brand new. And I felt like there was not enough time given for me to really understand, like before I was being, critiqued. And it was a very intricate area that I went into with a lot of details that I needed to be able to understand and really study to really understand the dynamics of what was playing out. It was painful. Like, that's the word I think of. It was such a painful transition. I felt a great deal of sadness during this time. I actually felt almost like I wanted to leave the profession as a whole. Like, it felt like it wasn't worth my mental health. There was a lot of different dynamics playing out related to the pandemic. And it was kind of hitting me all at once, working with families that were, yelling in my face on a daily, about not being able to come in to see their family members. And it was so difficult, and trying to make the right decisions in such a challenging time was so hard and painful, because that human part of me knows what it's like to have a family member in the hospital, and to be, adhering to certain things was challenging. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It was painful at that time. And again, I had to go internal. I remember listening to a podcast that was from Brene Brown, which a lot of people listen to her, but she talked about like having a soft front, like never losing that softness in the front, but having a strong spine. And I loved that because it's who I am in leadership. I want people to know I care, but also to have a strong spine and to be able to make the decisions I need to when I need to affect the greater whole. So I think that's a fine balance we play. And so the barriers were many things. It was individuals, and it was systems, and culture was a huge part of it. I think if creating an unhealthy culture is a huge dynamic that is a big barrier to success, being successful with initiatives. And it caused me to really be passionate about creating healthy culture and healthy environments.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because a lot of times I know that's when in 2020 was when I kind of like woke up in a sense, and I started moving from anguish to action. And that's kind of, it sounds like you start just taking action. As difficult as it was, you still started taking action. And that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, like, how did you sustain yourself during those painful times? Like, what did you do to help Jessica to be able to still show up with a positive attitude, if you were able to even do that?
I did show up. And the reason why I did is it wasn't without effort. I chose literally to show up and be that person that was going to be the light person, or, bring the positive every single day, even when it was so hard to do. And people know me for that, which I am proud of. They know that I was the one that brought that. It was with intention. It's who I am. I did a lot of work, Charlene. I deep dove into work. I got the tools. I finished my master's. I really read a million stories of inspiring healthcare stories, different obstacles that people had within the history of healthcare. And there are many. There are so many. And then I wrote. I'm a writer. So I wrote these stories into a book, and then I gifted it to those around me, because I felt if I was inspired, why not share that with those around me? So I gifted those books to people within leadership. I often felt like somebody needs to write a book on this path, this lonely path, and how to overcome this, because not be the only one that experiences this. And so that's what I did. I did the work. I did the hard work. I dove into the work. I researched things out. I read stories that were going to fill my own bucket. I pulled from what went well in history and what went well for other people, and I utilized that as a tool to implement in my own environment.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You are totally a trailblazer there.
Hard work. I mean, it was hard.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm sure that your team appreciated, and all of those that are connected to you. I can imagine like being in such a dry place and then to be able to read the book that you read. I want to make sure that we can put that in the link so people can get
it's not for sale. I did it mainly.
You just did a heart project.
It's mainly, it was a heart project. It's not to be recognized, and it wasn't to be sold. It was literally to share this gift of storytelling, the power of storytelling, and these people that had come before us, and during, not just they were present people, their stories from present and then in the past, but I just felt that their stories were so significant and inspiring that it would benefit those around me who are also struggling, and maybe they would feel inspired and be able to bring that into their own environments as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Well, let's see here. I would love for you to tell people how to advance. Like if you have a nursing friend or even healthcare worker, whoever, to encourage them to advance in whatever area that they feel called to, what would you tell them?
I'd say stick your neck out there and try it. Go for it. It's
yes.
Because so in my life, I decided a long time ago, fear was never going to be a driver of my life. I was never going to allow fear to prevent me from trying something. And in leadership, I've applied for a lot of things and been denied and not been the chosen person. And I was devastated. The very first position I applied for, I didn't get. And I remember feeling happy for the person, but devastated for myself, which is such a conflicting feeling. You know, you don't want to feel that way, but I had this plan in my head, right? I had this plan. I have a plan. When Jessica has a plan in her head, and it's not because I felt inspired to do it. And I felt like the universe was just going to open the way and it was going to be easy. And if I put myself out there, it was just going to happen. No, it didn't happen. Actually, it didn't happen. I didn't get that first position I applied for. I was super devastated. I remember talking to the other leader about it, and you know, she was so kind and just listened to me as I like cried my little eyes out, thinking I deserved this chance, right? But also being happy for the person because she deserved it too, right? So that was conflicting. But like I've put myself out there lots of times and been told I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't ready. And I would tell every single person, you belong in the room. Show them you belong. Don't give up. If it's something you're passionate about, you keep going. You keep putting yourself out there. As painful as it is, you're gonna build strength and resilience in being denied first, and then overcoming that and continuing on and being successful.
You know, no, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Okay, no, that's awesome. That reminded me of me and my husband used to do this youth leadership program, and one of the principles in there is you must be willing to fail often to succeed one time. And so that's really what you've captured and what you just demonstrated in applying for different things and not getting, but allowing that to launch you into a different place. I love to do this, Jessica, at the end of the show. I love to ask the guests to give us 3 pearls of wisdom when a moment does choose you. Give them or encourage them in some type of way with Jessica's top 3.
Yeah. So the top 3 for me, because I did write these down, you know, as I thought about it. At first I was like, I don't know what to say, but actually I do. The first is to follow your instinct. That internal voice that tells you to do something. Be authentic. Be true to yourself and follow it. Don't give up. You will see barriers. There's no way that you won't. It's just the nature of life. Know who you are and follow it. And then, don't allow ego to get in the way. There's no place for ego in this. Authenticity is the best place to be, and to just show up as yourself. The second, I put do the work. Do the work. Do the work. Do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah. So what that means is like internal work, and you're gonna find yourself on a path where you really have to turn inward, and you have to build resiliency within, and find your anchors. And then also do the external work. Get your education. Utilize what's available to you. There's no reason why you can't pull resources in this day and age. It's at our fingertips. There's so many opportunities to build your resume for one, but to give yourself tools to be successful in the roles that you desire. It's not handed to just anyone. Do the work.
Yes.
The other thing is stay connected to your why. Stay connected to the meaning of what you're doing. Stay connected to meaningful practice. I speak to healthcare, meaningful practice, but stay connected to the meaning and never lose sight of that. Don't disconnect from the people, the humans that you're working with, and don't disconnect from the why, because that is where I think we fall, and that's where we fail. And that's especially if you're in leadership, that's really where we fail. We fail our people. And most organizations are made up of people. They're our most valuable resource. So never to lose sight of that.
Yeah, those are wonderful. And you hit the last one is extremely special to me. When I went into leadership, I recognized that the people were my why. Inspiring them to be the best person that they can be, or to be there to support and to be there in really dark times and times of joy too. So I so agree with you on that. And it just reminds me really of what Dr. Jane Watson says, that we are the light in institutional darkness. So you are shining your light beautifully. So thank you, Jessica, for all of the work that you're doing. I'm wondering if people wanted to kind of connect with you, is there any way that they can connect with you? I know I saw you on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn, so they can connect with me on LinkedIn. The Humans of Healthcare is a Facebook page. They can connect there if they'd like to read the stories that I'm talking about. Just message me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best avenue. And I'm really responsive, so if you guys have questions or are interested in anything, and I love to pull from other people. So if you have insight to give, I'm all ears.
Okay, that's wonderful. Wonderful. So thank you again. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Charlene. It's so lovely to be on the show with you. I appreciate it.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care.